What's good, everybody? Man, it's CDK Boxing back at you one more time. And this is about to be another great interview. I'm really excited about this interview this morning, man. I got Manager Marty coming. And, he's someone that I look forward to talking to. He knows a lot about boxing, very knowledgeable. And we're going to get a lot of these questions answered, man. People been asking me questions, inboxing me about certain stuff. 1 second, y'all. 1 second. I don't know who that is. I can't see, but I'm waiting on Manager Marty to get in here. So everybody give me 1 second so he can join. Man, shout out to everybody in tuning in. Man, I'm trying to get better and better with these interviews. And as my channel grow, I'm gonna start, really getting this stuff together and getting it like I want it. It just takes a second, time. Uh, but I do this, man, because I love it. Boxing is my love, so this is something I love doing. Let me see if he in yet. Yes. Should be coming in any moment. I just sent you a request. What's good, my brother?
How you doing, sir?
And I'm blessed. I'm alive. God woke me up this morning, so I can't complain. I can't complain. Man, we got Manager Marty here. I told y'all, what I'm saying, somebody I've been looking forward to speaking with. He knows boxing way more knowledgeable than me, you know what I'm saying? And I can admit that anytime that somebody has more knowledge than me, man, I take my hat off to him. And there's a lot of questions I want to ask you because people have been asking me a lot of questions and I've been holding off because there's been some things you've been talking about and I want them to hear it from you. So, first and foremost, the first thing I really want to ask you about because my cousin, he's into boxing a lot too. And it's something you were speaking on. He wanted to know why fighters are only fighting one time a year now. The champions and stuff. So could you answer that if you don't mind?
So let me just make sure that we clear. So the question is, why do fighters fight one time per year?
Yeah,
Correct?
yes. Like from the old days, they used to fight. Fighters used to maybe get 3 or 4 fights in, 2 to 3 fights. But now it seems like they're only fighting once a year, and people want to know why. So I'm gonna let you explain to them why.
All right. So we're comparing it to the old days, back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, even the 90s. If we're comparing it to those eras,
Yes,
let's
sir.
put this in perspective. You know, the health and wellness of those fighters who fought so frequently back then, we know that they have a lot of mental health issues due to injuries that they sustained inside of the ring. And so the punishment that these professional athletes take inside of the ring and outside of the ring is one of the reasons why, promoters won't have their fighters fighting too many times in a year. And we have to include this, and you are an amateur boxer, so you understand that a lot of fighters um, sustain injuries even during training and sparring.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the fans don't calculate the sparring that fighters endure in training camp, included with fights in a professional bout. So, with that being said, it gives the opportunity for the fighter and the promotion to be able to have longevity in the sport. I mean, let's take the NFL for an example. We know that the lifespan, as far as a career for running backs, is approximately 3 years. And then
Mm-hmm.
after the wear and tear of 3 years, their career and everything else start going downhill. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what happens with boxers. If you have them sparring every training camp, and then they're getting into professional fights 2, 3 times, 4 times a year, that's wear and tear on their body, and their longevity will not be there. And then, of course, their career will be diminished and start going downhill. So from comparison to now to the old days, that's one answer. The second answer is the answer that I tried to give Rick Glaser when you were on my channel just viewing.
Mhm.
What was that, last week or a week and a half ago?
Yes,
And
sir.
that is that the sanctioning bodies, WBC, WBA, WBO, and the IBF, they have their rules and regulations that they facilitate for world champions. And in their rules and regulations, not my words, but theirs, their regulations say that professional champions will mandatorily defend their title once every 9 months. So just that fact alone will always put a fighter in the clearance to fight just once a year. Just
Right.
defending their title, that's once every 9 months, just from the bat. So when you incorporate those two answers that I gave, then you'll start to understand why fighters fight once a year. Now remember, there's only specific type of fighters that fight once a year. If you got a prospect, I'm just using this as an example for illustration purposes. If you have a prospect who's, let's say, 6-0, well, that 6-0 fighter coming up in the game is not going to fight once a year. If I'm
Right.
the manager of a fighter who I'm representing that has a record, let's say, of 6-0, that fighter's gonna fight at least 3-4 times in 1 year, trying to build his or her record up while they're learning on the job training. When you're a prospect and when you're a mid-tier fighter, once or 2 times a year fighting is good business. When you are a world champion, one of the great benefits of being a world champion is so that you won't have to put a lot of work in that you've already laid the foundation for early on in your career. It's no different than if we have a day job. Some of us who are employed, blue collar, you don't want to work more and get paid less, right? You want to work less and get paid more. And that's the mindset that fighters and promoters and managers have when fighters reach a certain status and a certain level in the sport of boxing. And I hope I answered your question.
You answered that beautifully. I love that answer. And my cousin was down. He's in the comments, and he wanted to hear it, and he said, "Facts, facts, my brother." And like I told him, I wanted you to break it down because you know a lot more about the business of boxing than I do. You know, like what do you think about the situation right now with Matchroom and the Zone? Seems like a lot of their fighters are testing positive for steroids or something. Do you think that's a coincidence, or how do you feel about that? With Alicia Baumgartner, what happened to her recently?
Well, it's so unfortunate. I mean, Alicia Baumgartner she's a nice woman. You know, I met her
Yes,
a few times. She came to my city to support one of the fighters that her promoter uh, was promoting and put on the card. I was there. I'm real good friends with her promoter. He's a good guy. But we got to keep it all the way 100. You know, it's not the promoters, it's not the networks like the Zone, it's not
right.
Matchroom like the promoter, it's
Yeah,
the fighters. And if they decide to be irresponsible with whatever they are ingesting in their system, these are the consequences. I mean, it's unfortunate because I like Alicia Baumgartner. I think most fans do like her.
yeah,
She's a great ticket seller. She's a good fighter. You know, she's a beautiful person inside and outside of the ring, inside and outside as a person. But when someone tests positive for a banned substance, we got to treat them the same way we treat everybody else. And I don't
yeah,
mean to knock nobody, but I got to keep it all the way 100. I think you know me long enough on YouTube
yeah.
that I don't pull no punches and I don't have no favoritism. When
Right.
other people tested positive in the sport, most people were saying, "Oh man, they dirty. They're a bunch of cheaters." But now when it's Alicia, for some reason, most people want to say, "Oh, we gotta wait till our sample B gets clear."
Mm.
Oh, we gotta give the benefit of the doubt. Oh, wait a minute, all the facts didn't come out. Don't prejudge. We gotta treat every fighter the same if they're testing positive for steroids and or a banned substance. And let me say this: anytime a fighter or any athlete who has a sample A tests positive, 99.99999% of the time, their sample B is going to also come back as an adverse finding, and it will test positive as well. I mean, I actually feel real bad for Alicia because I didn't even want to speak on it on my channel. But then if I didn't speak on it on my platform, I'd be doing the same things that I'm accusing other people of doing, and that's showing favoritism. And we can't do that in the business or the sport of boxing.
Definitely, you're definitely right about that. I'm glad you said that. Do you feel like though that there's like sometimes the fighter might not know what they're taking, or they're just like you said being irresponsible? Is it I mean, like I heard somebody say something about the way testing is done, and they're sending it out to the lab, and people thinking that people might be messing with the samples. How do you feel about that?
Well, listen, this is how it goes, man. When it comes down to you talked about ingesting certain ingredients, and I said this on my channel just last night on my podcast. So the thing about it is this: when fighters are taking supplements, or they're taking, things to enhance their performance, or help them with weight loss, or help them with gaining more energy, or even an advantage in their fights. A lot of times, fighters will inadvertently and unknowingly take certain supplements, let's say that's over the counter. Now, it might not be the supplement itself or the brand, but it's the ingredients inside of the supplement that
Right,
might be on the banned substance list. And so when I talk about irresponsibility of a fighter, it's all about conducting research with the
right,
ingredients, because at the end of the workday, the fighter is responsible for having, negative and or positive, results when they get tested. And so if you're not going to do the research or the homework on, let's say I'm using whey as an example, the whey product,
mhm,
you can buy that anywhere, the
yeah,
powder substance and all that, right? If you're not conducting research as a professional athlete with regards to ingesting the ingredients that's listed on the back of, the product, then you got to hold yourself accountable as the fighter. And if you're working with a quote unquote strength and conditioning coach who's offering you certain supplements, you still have to conduct your research as a fighter, because this is your job. And at the end of the day, nobody's going to blame Matchroom. Nobody's going to blame the zone. Nobody's
right.
going to blame the strength and conditioning coach unless they have a shady past. They're going to put all of the blame on the professional athlete. And right now is no different of what's going on with Alicia Baumgartner.
Right, I agree with you 100%. Now, I know I don't know everybody knows who Victor Conte is. Uh, he's somebody that went to prison behind steroids and I think tax evasion. I think he might have done like 5 years, or he was sentenced to 5 years. How do you feel about fighters working with him? Because we know Terrence Crawford worked for him for his camp with Earl Spence.
Well, I did a whole entire segment on Victor Conte, Terrence Crawford, and their alliance together on my podcast just just yesterday, and I
Um,
encourage anybody watching now or the replay of this to
Definitely.
feel free to go on my channel, Manager Marty on YouTube. Um,
Hmm.
I'm the hottest manager on YouTube, so I'm
You
not hard to find.
is.
And you
You
can
is.
go on there and you can hear some of the things that I said, some of the fans of Crawford said, and we had a great dialogue. But we got to keep it all the way 100. Victor Conte actually did 4.5 months in federal prison because he was
Okay.
indicted on steroid dealing with regards to performance enhancement drugs 20 years ago. He's been involved with this whole steroid debacle that he created and manufactured with a chemist from 1984 until 2003, which we know of.
Yes.
He has worked with some notable athletes who have broken many records. Tim Montgomery being one,
Yeah.
Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa, Mark McGuire, the list goes on and on, Marion Jones, and even Sugar Shane Mosley in boxing. And so everybody and their grandmom know that Victor Conte has a shady past. I'm not saying he's doing any illegal things today. He could have changed his life around. I'm not here to judge or misjudge the guy. But anytime you have a guy that has been 38 years strong with manufacturing PEDs and steroids, and not only that, but have discovered so many ways on how to circumvent Olympic style testing where a fighter can be on PEDs such as HGH, EPO, insulin, the clear, or the cream, and they will not test positive because he knows how to circumvent the system. He knows how to circumvent
Mm.
testing. And so even if you test, your test going to come back negative because he knows all of the ingredients and the skill sets to be able to do so. When you have a guy that have that type of history, it don't matter who you are. Everybody and their grandma going to look at you and say you're suspicious. Excuse
Right.
me. Especially in Terrence Crawford case, where he's been with Victor Conte for 3 fights. Sean Porter was his first fight, then David Evanesian, and now, of course, Errol Spence. And this is not hearsay or an opinion. All you got to do is go on YouTube and look at those fights if you haven't seen them live, and you will discover that his performance has been enhanced in all 3 of those fights. You look at the last 2 fights. Since Crawford has been with the snack program and using the supplements, and it's all legal, but I'm just saying we got to keep it all the way 100. We've never seen Terrence Crawford knock anyone out with 1 punch cold like he did David Evanesian. And the truth of the matter is, in the last fight with Errol Spence, we've never seen Terrence Crawford look that phenomenal in any of his fights. His styles changed and everything else. And in that fight with Spence, and this is not taking credit from Crawford for his performance, but we just got to keep it all the way honest and be real that Terrence Crawford looked different in that fight. And so did Errol Spence, irregardless of the reasons. And so even if we say that Manager Marty's a Bud Crawford hater, because that's what people have been calling me for a whole year now, we still got to look at the facts. And the facts is he's with a shady guy. He's with a guy who has a history of, not playing fair by the rules and allowing athletes to cheat, making millions of dollars. That's a fact. Now, if he changed his life around or not, that remains to be seen. But the fact that Terrence Crawford went over there voluntarily in preparation for this fight, we got to look at him as being suspicious. So that's where we are right now.
Man, and I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but that's what I want them to hear it from you, because they say I'm a Terrence Crawford hater at times too. But I give him full credit. I think he's a phenomenal fighter. I was looking at Earl, and what I tell people, like, if you've never really watched like boxing, if you're just a casual fan, what I saw from Earl Spence that night, that was not Earl Spence in that ring. I don't care what nobody tells me. Do you think that there's any, like, from the wreck and everything, how do you feel? Do you feel like the Earl's having an effect from what happened to him, the 2 wrecks, the eye surgery? Because he just seemed off to me that night. He got knocked down basically with a jab.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can speculate and say it was because he was weight drained. I can speculate and say that psychologically he wasn't all the way there. I can speculate and say he was drunk. He was having a hangover. I can speculate and say anything, but my word means nothing. We have to look at the actions of Errol Spence, and the bottom line is Errol Spence looked different that night for whatever reason. He was not the 100% Errol Spence that night, and we all can agree to that. Hopefully he becomes the 100% Errol Spence in the rematch. And I think the rematch is supposed to be happening, according to all the whispers that we're hearing, at 154 pounds, hopefully at the end of this year or the beginning of next year.
Yeah, definitely. I seen Derek James done an interview, and he basically said, he said that, he still believes that Earl Spence does everything better than Terrence Crawford. And, he says he feels like when they go to 154, you're going to see a different Earl. So, I was listening to Floyd say that he feels like Spence should fight at 160 or 168. And in a sense, he was basically saying if they try to talk him out of taking that fight at 147. Do you believe that Spence should fight at that weight, that high weight, 168?
Well, I respect Floyd Mayweather. I'm not an in-ring performance expert, but I take Floyd Mayweather's word of having credence way more than mine inside that ring. And Floyd Mayweather knows more information about Errol Spence and his background because they all work around the same circles, of course, with Al Heyman. So if that's what Floyd believed in, I respect it. I do believe that right now, just for this fight, he should move up to 154. We all know that Errol Spence been talking about having trouble with this weight for years anyway, which is why he been trying to get this fight with Crawford before all this even happened. He wants to get out of the weight class because it's hard for him to make the weight. So I would recommend him starting at 154 with this rematch, see how his body does and feels, and if he want to move up to 160 or whatnot, fine, but start at 154 first. That would be my recommendation, instead of just jumping up 2 or 3 weight classes out of nowhere sometimes your body fail you there too, and you can't come back down. So I think the best thing for him to do, start it at 154, see how his body feel, and then go from there.
I definitely agree. Yesterday, man, I had on Facebook, I made a comment. It was about Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Crawford, and you know how Canelo fans are. Man, they went crazy yesterday. I loved it though, but now Terrence Crawford is taking on the ideal. He's willing to go up to 168 and fight the winner of Jermell Charlo and Canelo Alvarez. Do you think that that's legitimately just a money grab, or do you feel like that he has a real shot at 168?
I got two words for you, Kelly. Snack program. That's what I got for you. Yeah, see, when you on a snack program, you're like Superman. Those are the words of Victor Conti, not mine. He said that in his own documentary that's on Netflix right now that premiered on Tuesday. He said it himself.
Right.
When you on the program, you feel like Superman. So all of a sudden, I
Mm.
guess Crawford on the program, he got the supplements and all that, performing his. Maybe he feel like he's Superman. He could jump all the way up to 168. I'm just saying, snack program is the only two words I got for that answer.
Yeah, man, the snack program. Hey, I got to give it to that man. He came up with something, man, something great. The snack program is working for a lot of fighters now. And I know Devin Haney is also a part of the snack program. I've seen him with the shirts on and stuff like that.
Yes.
And before I let you go, I don't want to hold you up too long. I know you're a busy man. What do you feel? How do you feel about Devin Haney offering Shakur Stevenson the 25%? Do you feel like it's a fair offer, or you think it was just to throw it out there and say, "Hey, I did try to make a fight"?
Well, first and foremost, everybody on YouTube and everybody watching live and living color knows I'm a boxing manager. So we got to do
Mm.
things with honor in this business. Anytime fighters
Right.
are going back and forth talking about percentages, when they both have representation, you know there's something wrong with that picture. You might not have heard it nowhere else,
Mm.
but I'm saying it right now. When Bill Haney is the representation of Devin Haney, his father, right? And then you have Jay
Mm-hmm.
Prince, who's a representation of Shakur. Those two men should be talking. Of course, with Bob Arum included in the dialogue because he's the promoter of Shakur Stevenson. So no fighter has no jurisdiction offering another fighter no percentage when they both have representation. That's the whole point of managers and promoters getting in the back office negotiating. And so if you listen to what Bob Arum said, though, Bob Arum did a recent interview, and I believe it was on Fight Hype, I think, but it's on YouTube, and he said that that was not a legitimate offer, that Devin Haney even offered 25% to Shakur Stevenson. He said
Mm.
that because the bottom line is this. We know this to be the truth, Kelly, and we got to keep it all the way 100. It don't make no difference if Devin Haney offers Shakur Stevenson anything because Bill Haney and Devin Haney already had their sights on Regis Prograis, which is why
Mm.
Bill Haney was at Regis' last fight. He was at his fight scouting him way before the offer even came out. So the bottom line is they knew they were going to move up to 140 after this Lomachenko fight. And unfortunately, they was doing a lot of pump faking, saying that Tank Davis was somebody that was in their sights to fight way before they fought Lomachenko. But the truth of the matter is that Devin Haney and Bill Haney had no intentions of fighting Tank Davis. That's
Mm.
just the truth. Now, if they want to fight Shakur, they already know if they move up to 140, they're not going to be able to fight Shakur or Tank because neither one of
Yeah.
those guys are representing the 140-pound division. So we got to
Right.
keep it all the way real and be honest. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is my final question. I'm gonna let you get out of there. Fimo Lopez. I like him. I think he's a excellent fighter. Do you feel like he's kind of saying he retired because he feel like he's being underpaid? Do you think he's being underpaid?
You said underpaid.
Yes, he said he's only getting $1 million a fight. He's been saying that for a minute now, and he wants more money. I seen some of the statements he's made about he feels like Top Rank only pays black fighters, promotes them. How do you feel about Teofimo?
The bottom line is this: Teofimo needs to be grateful. If the man's making $1 million every fight, and he fights once or twice a year, I believe he ought to be grateful. And the reason why I say that is because if you look at the landscape of the average American citizen who works for 30 years at I'm just going by, let's say, $50,000 a year. The average American citizen, right? I'm just saying average, right? makes a
Yes.
little under $50,000 a year. It would take an American citizen who grosses $50,000 a year, literally 30 years flat, to generate $1.5 million in gross income. So if a
Mm.
fighter can make $1 million in one fight for 12 rounds, and we know there's 3 minutes per round, do the math. That fighter ought to be grateful. It's hard to make $1 million in this business. But as far as Teofimo Lopez goes, if he's complaining about how much he's making, it has nothing to do with the race of him or other black fighters. It's his representation. Now,
Mm.
if he only makes $1 million and he was able to secure 2 titles, then that means his dad or his manager's not doing a good job, and he needs to reach out to Manager Marty, and I'll help him clear $3 million.
Woo-wee. Well, Teofimo, I hope you get the opportunity to see this. I just want to say this right here, bro, my brother. I appreciate you because I know you know without a doubt in this boxing game, far as what we doing, a lot of people don't want to give you opportunities. You know what I'm saying? They worried about whether or not you're going to get some of their subscribers and all that. And it's people like you and BBO Boxing and Greg Hackett and YSM Sports Media that have given me an opportunity to do something I love, man. So thank you for that.
Anytime, my brother. Listen, just like YSM Sports Media asked me for an interview, he extended the olive branch. I did an interview. It went almost viral compared to the YouTube boxing community's algorithm. And here I am today. And I'm going to extend the same olive branch that YSM extended to me to anybody that's trying to make a name for themselves in this media. You know, and I say, get me while I'm hot now. Because when I get
Right?
even hotter, I'm going to start charging for interviews. It ain't
Right.
personal, it's just business.
No, that's business. That's business. Man, that's business. That's why I said, hey, I respect it, man. I hope you have a blessed day, man. You know one thing about it, I will be watching your channel. I look for your videos every day to see what I can hear. Cause I love seeing you burn somebody up, man. You win at Rick Glazer, man. I want y'all everybody to get an opportunity, man. Go on his channel and watch and listen to him talking, man. Look how people be running. Like you said, you hit him with a 1-2 punch, but he ain't let you get the last blow in, man. Have a
You better
blessed day,
know
my
it.
brother.
I appreciate you, brother, and I thank you for the opportunity. You can get an interview from me anytime, brother.
Yes, sir. Salute. I'm out.
Salute to you. Have a blessed day, brother.
All right.
You got it.
Man, hope y'all enjoyed the interview, man. That was Manager Marty. He knows boxing. Check out his YouTube channel. It's growing fast. Man, everybody have a blessed day.